Today we have some agent skills best practices from the people who created agent skills. Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. Today we are doing a bit more of a practical hands-on style episode. It was inspired by this post from Tariq over at the Claude Code team at Anthropic called Lessons from Building Claude Code, How We Use Skills. And the context for this is that if you take away one theme from pretty much all of 2026's episodes so far, it's that we are moving into a much more agentic era of AI. Skills are a key component of how to get value out of agents. And so today we're going to first give a little bit of a background of what skills are, talk about some of these lessons and best practices from the team at Claude Code, and then share a few more resources where you can take the conversation farther. First of all, let's talk about what skills are. The official GitHub repo calls them a simple, open format for giving agents new capabilities and expertise. Skills are folders of instructions, scripts, and resources that agents can discover and use to perform better at specific tasks. Write once, use everywhere. The background is this. As AI coding agents were getting more and more capable throughout 2025, people started to hit a very similar wall, which was basically that system prompts kept ballooning. Every new capability meant more instructions, more examples, and more edge cases crammed into a single context window. Of course, the more you try to jam into a context window, the more you're going to have performance degradation. Having to juggle all of that knowledge all at once was crowding out space for actual execution on the task at hand. That led to agents getting slower, more expensive, and less reliable. Now, the insight that ended up driving skills was that agents don't need access to all of their knowledge all the time. What they need is to be able to load the right knowledge at the right moment. On October 16th, Anthropic officially announced skills in a blog post. The post was called Equipping Agents for the Real World with Agent Skills and framed the issue as this. Claude is powerful, but real work requires procedural knowledge and organizational context. They write, as model capabilities improve, we can now build general-purpose agents that interact with full-fledged computing environments. Claude Code, for example, can accomplish complex tasks across domains using local code execution and file systems. But as these agents become more powerful, we need more composable, scalable, and portable ways to equip them with domain-specific expertise. This led us to create agent skills, organize folders of instructions, scripts, and resources that agents can discover and load dynamically to perform better at specific tasks. So what a skill actually is a directory anchored by a markdown file. Every skill directory is going to have a skill.md file that's going to have some required metadata like a name and a short description. When agents have access to skills, rather than having to have all of the context all at once, they simply load up the name and the description. The idea of progressive disclosure in skills is to give the agent just the information that it needs in order to make good decisions without overloading its context. So basically, the first layer of detail is just the short description, which means that when the agent is doing a task, it has those descriptions in mind and can go call up that skill if it seems like it would be useful. The second level of detail in this progressive disclosure regime is the actual body of the skill.md file. If the agent thinks that that skill is going to be useful, it'll move from just reading the description to reading the contents of that skill.md. Now, the skill.md body is still very small. While the metadata is tiny at roughly 100 tokens per skill, even the full skill.md body is recommended to stay pretty small. This leads to the third level of detail in progressive disclosure. Basically, as skills grow in complexity, they also might have context that's relevant only in specific scenarios. And in fact, this is a really important part that gets missed. In the article from Anthropic's Tariq that we're going to come back to, he writes, a common misconception we hear about skills is that they are just markdown files. But the most interesting part of skills is that they're not just text files. They're folders that can include scripts, assets, datas, etc. that the agent can discover, explore, and manipulate. Basically, you can bundle additional context in the form of other markdown files or references or scripts that get linked out to from the skill.md file. The analogy, they say, is a well-organized manual that starts with a table of contents, then specific chapters, and finally a detailed appendix. Almost immediately, skills began being adopted outside of just the Anthropic ecosystem. OpenAI added skills support to both ChatGPT and the GitHub Copilot family of coding agents, all adopted the standard, and other ecosystems and harnesses have jumped on board as well. The launch of OpenClaw really took the skills conversation to the next level. As people started en masse building all of these different agents, a lot of them had common skills needs. Like, for example, understanding how to use specific tools, how to interact with certain types of file formats like documents and PDFs, or how to take specific actions like transcribing audio. A site called ClawHub quickly launched that now has something like 28,000 skills. And other people have their own collections focused on particular use cases or areas of interest. And yet, what Anthropic found when they actually sat back and looked was that as many skills as there were available, Many, if not most of them, could fit into one of 9 categories: library and API reference, product verification, data and analysis, business automation, scaffolding and templates, code quality and review, CI/CD and deployment, incident runbooks, and infrastructure ops. So that's what led them to this post. Let's talk first about some of the categories in this taxonomy, and then some of the more general best practices that Anthropic shared. I'm not going to go through all 9 categories, but let's talk about a couple. One key category they found was data fetching and analysis, skills that, for example, connect to your data. These skills, they write, might include libraries to fetch your data with credentials, specific dashboard IDs, etc., as well as instructions on common workflows or ways to get data. Another category which I can see being important to listeners of this show is business process and team automation. In other words, skills that automate repetitive workflows into one command. They write, these skills are usually fairly simple instructions, but might have more complicated dependencies on other skills or MCPs. An example might be a weekly recap skill, where merge PRs plus close tickets plus deploys come together in a formatted recap post. Another category in their key taxonomy of skills, which relates to some conversations we've been having recently, is about code quality and review. Now, the conversation that we've been sharing here is one about what happens when coding agent sprawl gets sufficient that it just becomes impossible for humans to review all the code. There are some who are argue that we're already far past that point, while others cling on to the idea that humans need to have the final look. My very strong instinct is that even if it would be better if all code that was released as products and services actually had human review, I don't think that there's any chance that that paradigm gets out of 2026. I think we're going to have to solve the problem of code review in new ways, which I'll be clear is a problem that I am not qualified to solve, but I just think that we're going to be producing such an incredibly high volume of code that at some point we'll give up the ghost on the idea of being able to review it all. That makes code quality and review skills seem all the more potentially important. This Anthropic describes as skills that enforce code quality inside of your org and help review code. Some of the examples are adversarial review, which would spawn a fresh eye subagent to critique, implement fixes, and iterate until findings degrade into nitpicks, or a code style skill that enforces code styling, especially styles that Claude does not do well by default. Interestingly, and I think related to that, Tariq argues that one of the highest ROI categories are verification skills. They describe this as skills that describe how to test or verify that your code is working. Verification skills are extremely useful for ensuring Claude's output is correct. It can be worth having an engineer spend a week just making your verification skills excellent. Consider techniques like having Claude record a video of its output so you can see exactly what is tested, or enforcing programmatic assertions on state at each step. So there are more categories in the taxonomy, but that gives you a feel for what Anthropic is seeing in terms of their most valuable skills. Now, admittedly, this is from the Claude code team, so it's going to index highly technical, whereas if you had an agent builder who is mostly focused on business processes, you probably see more gradations of this category for business process and team automation. Maybe even more useful then are Tariq and Claude Code's tips for actually making skills. One thing that a number of folks missed is that Anthropic actually just updated their skill creator tool. Skill Creator, they write, helps you write evals, run benchmarks, and keep your skills working as models evolve. And it was meant to answer a specific challenge. Since launching Agent Skills last October, they wrote, we've noticed that most authors are subject matter experts, not engineers. They know their workflows, but don't have the tools to tell whether a skill still works with a new model, triggers when it should, or if it actually improved after an edit. Ultimately, they write, the goal is bringing some of the rigor of software development, like testing, benchmarking, and iterative improvement, to skill authoring without requiring anyone to write code. Solopreneur and educator Ollie Lemon actually called this out as a fairly big deal. He wrote, Anthropic shipped 3 upgrades to skills that fix most problems almost everyone runs into. Problem 1, you had no way to measure how well your skills were actually performing. Now you can run evals that test your skill against multiple prompts and get a score. Problem 2, your skills break when models update and you don't notice. With the new skill creator, you can run A/B tests comparing your skill in raw Claude. Problem number 3, he writes, Claude doesn't even use your skill half the time because the description is too vague or too specific. Now the skill creator rewrites your descriptions automatically so they trigger at the right time. Anthropic, he points out, ran this on their own skills and saw better triggering 5 out of 6 times. Now, one other note from the skill creator that I thought was valuable is the framework for organizing skills into 2 categories. They call those 2 categories 1, capability uplift, skills that help Claude do something the base model either can't do or can't do consistently, i.e. certain types of document creation. And then the second category of skills are called encoded-preference skills that document workflows where Claude can already do each piece, but the skill sequences them according to your team's processes. The distinction matters, they say, because these 2 types of skills may need testing for different reasons. Capability uplift skills may become less necessary as models improve, while encoded preference skills are more durable, but only as valuable as their fidelity to your actual workflow. So back to Tariq's post. Here are some of their top tips for making skills better. The first is don't state the obvious. They write, If you're publishing a skill that is primarily about knowledge, try to focus on information that pushes Claude out of its normal way of thinking. The front-end design skill is a great example. It was built by one of the engineers at Anthropic by iterating with customers on improving Claude's design taste, avoiding classic patterns like the interfont and purple gradients. The second tip is to build a gotcha section. In fact, Tariq argues that the highest signal content in any skill is the gotcha section. These sections articulate common failure points that Claude runs into when using your skill. And ideally, he says you update your skill over time to capture these gotchas. A third tip goes back to that idea that people still think of skills as just a single markdown file rather than an entire folder. And Tariq says you should think of the entire file system as a form of context engineering. They also suggest you should avoid railroading Claude, i.e. give Claude the information it needs, but give it the flexibility to adapt to the situation. As Tariq puts at the conclusion, this should be thought of more as a grab bag of useful tips than as some sort of definitive guide. That makes sense because right now, everyone is just racing to figure out how to actually engage with the new capabilities of agents, and so every bit of advice at this point is going to be at least a little bit a work in progress. Now, one of the interesting things then is how all of these work in progress lessons apply to different categories of users. The most obvious is probably the advanced agent builders who are building and maintaining complex multi-agent teams. For them, obviously, skills are essentially a modular architecture for agent capabilities. And frankly, this is kind of the audience that Tariq most wrote this post for. A level down from that are the individual power users, which my guess is a lot of you fall into this category. This is not a person who's building complex agent teams and orchestration models. Instead, they are using one or a small number of agents to get their own work done faster or better or do things that weren't possible before. For that type of user, skills are basically reusable prompts with superpowers. The difference between a skill and a saved prompt is that a skill can include actual code, templates, reference data, and examples, not just instructions. The practical value then is you figure out how to get the agent to do something well once, and then you package it so it works reliably every time. The stand-up post example from Tariq's post is perfect for this tier. This is an automation of a daily task you do, and the type of thing that you want to happen consistently over and over again. This also helps demonstrate why that gotcha section can be really valuable. Every time the agent makes a mistake, you add it to the skill so it doesn't happen again, and the skill becomes a living document that gets smarter over time. This also helps you stay not locked into one specific ecosystem. Because skills are supported by Codex, Claude Code, Cursor, etc., you're not locked into any one tool's prompting format. But what about for the mainstream user? The person who isn't even yet fully in Claude Code or Codex? People who are using off-the-shelf tools or experimenting with Perplexity Computer or Notion custom agents? What's interesting here is that the design pattern holds, and you can see even in these simpler prosumer and consumer tools, the idea of skills as reusable capabilities infiltrating into the mainstream. In fact, earlier this week, Notion announced custom skills for Notion AI. In their announcement tweet, they write a prompt, you'll use it once. Write a skill, and you'll use it forever. And this is the mental model shift, even if you are not an agent builder with Claude Code. The shift is from thinking about ad hoc prompting to reusable capabilities. For a lot of folks out there, you're not ultimately going to have to care about the full architecture of skill.md files and progressive disclosure and all these things. Those folks just know they can teach the AI to do a specific thing their way, give it a name, and invoke it whenever they want. For some, it'll almost be an update to custom GPTs, which for many became essential even though they never fully took off. Now you can see how Notion has simplified skills into their own ecosystem. Basically, you can take any page in Notion, click the menu, and turn that page into a skill. And the point is that this concept of skills as reusable capabilities is a concept that is converging across the entire AI stack, from consumer uses up to much more advanced uses all at once. The underlying idea is that AI is less and less a one-off conversation, and more a library of reliable, repeatable capabilities. Skills, I think, are a useful framework for that, no matter what level you're engaging with it on. And hopefully this episode has given you a little bit of a better starting point. We might go deeper in a future operator episode, but for now, that is going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Appreciate you listening or watching as always, and until next time, peace